Welcome to Animal Posse, the podcast dedicated to the people and rescues making a difference in the lives of animals. Today, we are going to be talking with a woman who is fighting to save the forgotten residents of Seoul's redevelopment districts. These are the street cats who once were thriving in this area. Julie Choi is the founder of Yongsan Cats, and she has rescued more than 200 cats from the demolition zones, often racing the construction crews and working alone to pull the lives out of the rubble. She's turning a disappearing neighborhood into a blueprint for humane rescue, and today she is here to share how she does it, why it matters, and what happens to the animals when a city rebuilds itself. So let's get into it. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Dixie.
I'm excited to learn about this because I had no idea about the cats in Seoul or in these redevelopment districts. So
Mhm.
I would like to hear all about this. I think it's going to be a very interesting topic for all of my listeners. I would like to start with you. Before these demolition zones, before the headlines, what first pulled you into caring for the street cats, and when was there a moment that you realized if you didn't step in, then nobody was gonna help?
I have always cared deeply about animal welfare in Asia, but I honestly never expected it to come this early on in my life. And I have always been a dog mom. So I never had cats before until the rescue. And it all started on a snowy day when I came across two little kittens. I was simply walking back from my work and I saw them. I started feeding them. But that one small act completely opened my eyes to everything else. It exposed me to the brutal daily obstacles these cats face and the intense social stigma against the people who try to help them in Korea. And I didn't set out with a grand plan to build a massive rescue, but I just wanted to help the animals that I crossed paths here and there. And I always believe that small, consistent acts of compassion are what eventually can shift how a society views strays. So ultimately, I want to create an environment where if one everyday person decides to step up and take responsibility for a single life, the government and or society actually rally behind them to help. And this is because, as I said, as I was walking into the rescue scene, I learned about Yongsan demolition site, and truly, I realized that how local authorities and the existing big animal welfare organization in Korea here generally don't intervene deeply with rescuing stray animals from the demolition site.
When you said social stigma, what do you mean by that? Like, how are people treated?
I was very stunned because I am coming from America as well. I grew up there and I came to Korea a few years ago, and I started feeding the street cat thinking that it is okay. And what quickly learned is there are, of course, every country has lovers and haters, but there are a lot of haters here. And they'll give you an eye, like a glaze at the eye that makes you think that whatever you're doing is wrong. And plus on social media, the crazy cat lady stigma that is going around in America too, but I would say it's worse. They believe that anyone, street cat moms or anyone who cares for the cats are antisocial, no life. Basically, they find their meaning in life on only caring for the cats because they have nothing else. And I thought it was very unfortunate because as I was rescuing, I met a lot of people from different all over the world and even inside of Korea who is not part of that stigma. Everyone is just living their life and then they're sharing their warmth to the lives that they want to care for. But that's not how it's presented at the moment.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting to hear that because, like you said, in the United States, we do have crazy cat ladies. Everybody looks at the people who are trying to help cats and have a lot of cats as crazy, and so that's
Mm.
interesting to know that it's in other cultures too.
Yes, definitely. I was surprised as well. And I feel like culturally, it does hit harder in Korea because I think, in my perspective, American culture is more independent of what every culture has nosy individuals, but it's less in America, especially because it is bigger land. But it is more common in Korea, and it just was very hard because I had to fight through not only social stigma, but also occasional harasser who would literally I was feeding the cat and I was feeding them on a permission land, not a random area where no one allowed. Then I would find someone who lives around the corner saying, I'm gonna poison them all. And he ended up having a cat too. So it was very I was very shocked because he had his cats and he didn't I think it could have been only few people. I'm not generalizing that everyone is like this. Was that one experience that I had was he had his indoor cat and he believed that his cat is different from the outdoor strays because strays were born outside.
Yeah, I get that because I actually hear that here too. You find out that they have cats living in their house and they absolutely hate the cats that are outside. I don't understand that because how can you have them in your home and at the same time you're hating the ones that are outside?
It's shocking because I didn't know that was thing there too.
Yeah.
I think wow, okay. Okay, that is very interesting. Because unlike America, especially the city that I'm talking about is Seoul, and it is very urban city. And some part of America does have a wild nature where cats are just roaming around, and they can become real wild cats, I would say. I could be wrong, but that is my because of the setting, how it's very different from city. But in Korea, most cats, I believe, is cannot really become feral, because 50% chance they're gonna have someone who's gonna feed them. And it's literally apartments next to apartments. And wherever they're living at is someone else's parking lot, under the car, someone else's garden, but not even like American garden. It's just literally a small concrete space. So that's another thing is environmentally in the city like Seoul, even if they're strays, you cannot really categorize them as a feral cat because they always have a regular feeder. Even if they don't have regular feeder, someone with a good heart walks by and they'll feed them. So they already know that people feed them. So it's not very common for them to, yes, they'll play hunt pigeons, but then it's not common for them to hunt for pigeons or rat to make a lip to for food. So it is a very different, uniquely different setting, which is also why that I started rescuing because we have rescued over 250 cats within a year and a half, and most of them were just stray cats. And I have stray cats of my own. And yes, it does take time, but what I have realized, at least for the cats that I have rescued, is first of all, once they go inside of a house, they get the full freedom to sleep whenever they want to, eat whenever they want to, and drink whenever they want to. And they don't really need to guard and always be alerted. Second, with time, they do come around. Yes, they weren't petable initially, but then once they realize that we are safe, at least all my cats and all the cats that I have rescued, unless they're in the early stages of adjusting, I have been seeing working out. So that's why I believe that, especially the demolition site cats, if they cannot get relocated because that's not possible, then ideally saving one more life will be much better than leaving them behind.
The demolition zones, I would like to learn more about that because here in the United States, if they're going to demolish a building, it's usually just one building. So, can you paint a picture of these demolition zones and like how large are these demolition zones?
So while we are struggling to place our current rescues, the tragedy is still going on in the Yongsan demolition site. Yongsan is a district in Seoul City, and the destruction is divided into 5 zones. Took over 50 years to start, and over 18,000 people lived here. And it is the most expensive land in Seoul, where Samsung CEOs, most of the BTS members, ambassadors, and just where people with greater influence live. What they're trying to do is not destroy by building. They're doing it, entire neighborhoods are being torn down, and an estimated 1,000 community cats have been left behind in the rubble. That includes abandoned cats as well. They face starvation, injury, and displacements as the bulldozers move in. It's very sad because they divided into 5 zones, and we rescue from zone 3. Within zone 3 alone, there were over 500 cats. And how they start the demolition is initially they will evacuate people out. And then they start putting X marks around the doors. And then they start blocking the entire area. Not just I'm talking about the roads too, where people walk on. So no one can enter the site. And they start breaking down the doors and windows, turn down the electricity, and they start destroying the entire town. So once at, let's say, around the stage of 3 where they start blocking the entire town, no one can enter to feed the cats. So if they're still inside, then there's no way that we can save them out unless someone tries to sneak in or we get a permission. Which is why this is hard, because the permission also not is land is not owned by the government as well, which is why it's really hard to get permission because it's individually owned. And as I said, it is an expensive land, meaning unlike other districts, it moves fast. And every hour, every day is money spent. So they want to do it fast. And all the cats right now from so they're now starting zone 2. And zone 2, starting November this year, we won't be able to enter. Right now, we can enter to rescue or try to feed because there are some people living there. And I'm talking about like handful. Actually, most people had to leave in April and May. But there are some people who are still staying and they're trying to kick them out and it's taking time. So we have time until November. Once the November starts, no one's going to be able to go in unless with permission, but getting that permission will be almost nearly impossible. And that's only zone 2. And zone 2 still has about over 300 cats. And 145 combined, you can estimate. It is a challenging situation, but what is most devastating is that the city and major Korean animal welfare organizations are completely turning a blind eye to the crisis. These cats are just getting trapped in a war zone, entirely dependent on whatever grassroots help we can gather because the systems meant to protect them are doing nothing basically.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, when you say they have these zones, are these like essentially almost like a small city when you say a neighborhood?
It is because we're comparing it to America. I feel like we shouldn't. Size is different, but still, I would say it's like a one entire district. So there's a huge city called Seoul City, and within the zones, there's different districts, and it's literally they're getting rid of one of the portions of one whole district where over 18,000 people lived here.
Wow.
So it is big in the perspective of Koreans, and it is one of the largest demolition happening in Korea right now. And their goal is to finish this demolition by 2029, which is very fast. It's really fast considering the number of people and size. But it is going on. And honestly, right now, I'm trying my best to share the words out because with the limited resources we have, realistically and financially, we cannot rescue out every cat. And our goal is to raise awareness both internally and globally so that when we speak with the at least news media or governments, we have one more eyes and one more voice counting so that they can save us time to rescue these cats. Because what's very unique about what I have been doing in here with Yongsan Cats right now is our community are over 90% of our community members are foreigners who is either living in Korea or abroad. 90% of our community members, adopter, foster, supporters, and even donations are coming from foreign community that's inside and outside of Korea. And yes, we are trying to spread to Korean communities as well. But what I'm trying to do is connecting I feel like animal lovers are universal. And I want to connect whether despite the gender, nationality, age, I just want to connect everyone who has the same heart and try to work together to change the stigma and also bring a realistic change, even if it doesn't have to be a big change, just a small little changes where we can change, really bring the difference to the lives of the strays out there.
Yeah, I had no idea that this was going on until you actually reached out to me. And
Hmm.
I hate to compare it to America, but the reason that I'm doing it is because I think as Americans, it's hard for a lot of us to actually understand and visualize what's going on, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Can you walk us through a typical rescue? Like when you go into these zones, like how do you start?
We have local cat moms who lived there for over 10 years, 50 years, who couldn't leave them behind and coming back to the site to feed the cats. And me is basically I walk into the site and I work around with these local cat moms and we monitor the cats because there's regular feeding shelters. And initially, for what happened in zone three was literally last May, they gave us 2 months to pull out over 200 cats. That's how we did the massive rescue because we had 2 months and we had to get them out. But the problem was I wasn't a professional organization. I was just a one person who just had a heart and who just had friends who can help us out together. And what we did was we literally set out, we initially started with having three traps. And like I said, we had to get over 200 cats. And we had to go, we have something called carrot market, which is we can either sell used items or we can rent. And I posted on Carrot Market and then I rented traps from people like rescuers. So we had about 10 traps around. And then also the cat moms also had the traps. So we brought in all the traps that we had. And we would set out the traps everywhere around the zone. And we would try to get anyone that we can out, as many as possible. And that includes whenever we rescue, we don't try to leave behind just moms or healthy cats. If it's a family, best friends, we take all of them out, we take them together. And if it's an old cat, we take them. If they're a sick cat, we take them. So that's why I did had a temporary shelter in zone two, which got evicted this April. So that's how we go around it. And what happens afterwards is I take care of all the logistics, meaning I pay for the medical bills for all these cats. I do the transportation for the cats. I try to find the foster and adopter homes. I do the interview. I move the cats. And if they're at foster homes, I visit their foster homes to bring them to the vet or find them an adopter and move them. So yes, we do have volunteers, but this is what I mean by realistically, it's not very possible because I'm just one person and I am taking care of currently about 56 plus cats right now who are all at foster homes. So due to the realistic situation that has been happening, that's we don't that's basically our system. It seems messy, but literally we talk to the cat mom or as we are rescuing, we see the cats that we think that has to be rescued. We set up a trap, we get them, we deliver them to the vet. And because now we don't have a shelter, we'll try to find foster or potential adopter. And if they say yes, then we pull them out from the hospital, we bring them to their house, and we monitor them from their house. And that's how we start. And it is very challenging. When we had a shelter, it was still challenging because in a tiny space, we had to put in at one point there were 80 cats because like I said, we 200 cats and instantly within 2 months is 80 cats still was lucky because we were able to find foster and adopter for the rest of them. And then with the 80 cats, we couldn't bring in more cats, but because we had a shelter, we would bring in the cats. So at one point, the cats' numbers wouldn't change. It was like 70 to 80, and then back to 70 and 80. But because this April we had to close down, around the time when we had heard we had to close was March. They didn't give us time at all. It was literally a month notice. And we had about 40 to 50 cats. And luckily, I was able to reach out to some of the influencers and they shared the words out and we got all the foster cats, shelter cats out to the fosters. But now we don't have the shelter. So we cannot really rescue unless we have a foster and adopter homes. And Even let's say if it's a really urgent cat, then they have to be hospitalized. I have a cat that has been hospitalized in the vet for about 2.5 months is now. And major reason is because this cat got into a car accident. But afterwards, a month and a half in, she could have gone to a foster home, but we couldn't find anyone yet. And it's better for her to stay in the hospital than hop her around when she's not ready. So every day is different challenges, but we're working around people. So because we don't have physical spaces, we're talking to each other, communicating, trying to find the places together and try to see what we can do basis.
Yeah, that's a lot that you're taking on to being the person that's transporting these cats for the medical, coordinating the adoptions, coordinating the foster homes. So it seems like it's very intense physically and emotionally. What has been the hardest part for you personally? And on the flip side, what is it that keeps you going?
So the hardest thing is, to be honest with you, is people. Saving cats, rescuing cats, yes, it is physically difficult. It is sometimes grueling, but the best feeling is once you walk into a great home and you transfer the cat and you know that you feel that they're gonna have a great new chapter. That's a satisfaction. But usually, when you are rescuing, I think you may also know you cannot do it alone. It has to be together. But sometimes some people have misunderstandings or there are people emotions that you have to consider. And that sometimes gives me a lot of pressure and disappointment. But also the flip side is that people save as well. So this is what I always tell people is that yes, people kills, but also people saves. Without people, it's impossible to save any life. And also, the reason why I can keep going is because at every turning point, every corner, I meet amazing human beings. It could be foster mom, it could be adopter, it could be a stranger, and it could be anyone, but who always says, "Oh, I may not be able to help fully, but whatever that you're dealing with, let me handle it together with you." And that one, it doesn't have to be every cat, but just some portion of work that they take in for me together, it gives me a hope and it keeps me going. And it is also that's the major reason why we cannot stop because whenever you want to give up, there's always someone who's like, "Okay, I can help you." And then it's just every corner, every step, every chapter, there's someone who comes in that you didn't even expect. And even if it's not a ginormous help, still it is great amount of help enough for me to continue rescuing, continue helping the cats.
As the redevelopment continues, what is next for Yongsan Cats? What do you need the most right now? And how can our listeners support the work that you're doing?
My next goal right now is to settle all the cats to an adopter home, the ones that we already rescued, and try to find ways to realistically save out the cats that's left behind. And it doesn't have to be us physically, but even like I said, there's other shelters and organizations in Korea. And I hope that they also start making a move because they don't have to take in 10 cats. They can just take in one. But if every shelter or organization's taking few cats at a time, I'm sure it's going to work out. And that's why the most powerful thing anyone can do right now is lend us your voice. You can follow us on Instagram or join our Patreon, even just as a free member. And the reason is simple. When we approach government officials or news networks or organizations to demand intervention for these demolition site cats, numbers truly matters. And every single follower and free member is a tangible voice that proves the world is watching. And if you can donate, you are directly funding a cat's medical. But if you cannot, simply following us and sharing our stories gives us the leverage we desperately need to force real systematic change in Korea.
And what is your Instagram and then also your Patreon? And I'll include links in the show notes as well.
It's Yongsan Cats, and it's Yongsan Cats for everything. And website as well, yongsancats.com. Patreon, Yongsan Cats.
Julie, thank you for everything that you're doing. It's really eye opening because, like I said, I had no idea that this was going on and just the magnitude of it. It is very upsetting.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful that you're sharing your story with us today. Your work is saving lives that would otherwise be erased, and it's showing the world what compassion looks like in the middle of a demolition zone like this. It's giving hope to these animals.
It's very challenging, but yes, I'm grateful that you guys invited me to speak with you and talk about our issue because I know that it's just cats or animals cannot talk for themselves. And it has to be what I learned. Biggest lesson I've learned is, like I said, single voice. And I was a single voice who wanted to rescue just a town cat. And then suddenly I jumped into the demolition site. And if we don't speak up as a people who cares for the animals, I know that it's not going to get reached anywhere. And in order for a change to happen and to save a life, we need to let more people know. And I'm sure a lot of the audiences, whoever that I'm going to meet next and the ones that I have met before, all of us didn't know about what's going on. And it's because, not because we don't want to know, it's just that the world is huge and you cannot focus on what's happening for every possible animals. That's why what I'm trying to do is my portion of the issue that I'm dealing with for the cats in Korea, I just wanted the people outside of Korea to learn about it. So even if they don't physically help, knowing about it will impact and it can really bring a change. It doesn't have to be this year, it doesn't have to be next month, it could be just years later. But I truly believe that one more person knowing, whether they're in Korea or outside, it does bring a big change to at least one more life. And it's just the connection that I have felt with a lot of the community members and even with you right now. This literally is giving us a hope because at least someone is willing to listen to us. And yes, it doesn't have to be physically saving a cat, but this is a hope that someone else can actually hear about us through you guys. So I'm truly grateful.
It's so very inspiring to know that you took on this huge project as one person and you were able to get other people involved with it. It's just massive and it's just so inspiring for people who think that they can't do anything to help animals.
I feel like it's just initially I didn't know anything. That's why I was able to do it. But afterwards, I'm able to keep going because there's more people who I realize that have a same heart and compassion and who wants to help. I have met great people both in and outside of Korea, and that is also healing journey for me as well. I feel like these kind of support that you don't really get during daily lives or while you're working at a business setting. So I feel like cats are also helping me in a sense that I have a new perspective towards everything now and in a good way.
That's it for today's episode of Animal Posse. If you love what we're doing, please consider becoming a member. Your support directly helps us continue highlighting the people and stories that save lives across the country. Just a quick reminder, the views and opinions expressed by our guests are theirs alone and are provided for entertainment purposes. They don't necessarily reflect the official position of the show, and this information should never replace the advice of your own veterinarian. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bars in the night, claws in the fight, whiskers twitch and tails take flight. They're calling in stories to spin from the wild to the heart within. Broken wings and hopeful springs, we're the voices for these things. Animal posse. This is the bond, the holy